Duragesic. Doctor spoke. Objections that came up lie around abuse, aberrant behavior, and overall efficacy. You with me?
I am.
Dr. Kessler positioned Duragesic as a first-line treatment after short-acting opioids for several reasons, correct?
I see that written.
Now, ma'am, I'm not going to use the doctor's name here, but you see the name on your sheet, correct?
The one on this side?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. You see here where it says Dr. Kessler spoke. That is not the doctor that was being called on, correct?
It appears there's a different doctor listed here. I don't know this Dr. Kessler.
It says it gives him the opportunity to address patients' outside problems besides medication issues they frequently have when on pills. And goes on to say, second, it is the best defense against abuse potential. You see that?
I see it written here.
And again, here at the bottom, your rep is not only calling upon this doctor with respect to Duragesic, also calling on it with respect to your opioid drug, Ultraset, correct?
ULT is written down here.
That's Ultram or Ultraset, correct?
I don't know, but I believe it might be.
Next, we'll go to March 16, 2004 in Edmond, Oklahoma. Your cells are at Holly Abraham. This is page 222, line 285. The first line, it says, closed for patient with chronic lower back pain due to OA on Lorcath. You see the first word of this call note, we see a familiar word, closed, correct?
I do.
It's a marketing sales term that you used internally in your marketing strategies to close sales, correct?
Closed was a word we used.
It goes on to say, he told me that Congress just passed law to crack down on long-acting opioid use. See that?
I see that.
And the response is, told him that he has more reasons to use Duragesic because it is less abusable. See that?
I see that.
Follow up with Dawn data. So we see Dawn data being used again, right?
I see that written here.
Dawn data is the objection buster, right?
Again, Dawn data was in their sales aid at this time.
As an objection buster, right?
I believe we looked at it and it said objection handler.
Objection handler, right? How to push back on doctors who are worried about abuse, correct?
No, it is just if that comes up that you can address it with this particular data.
Address it or handle it?
I don't see the difference between either one of those.
Your word was handle, right?
Yes.
And here, follow up with Dawn data and then hit on Ultraset, your opioid drug, right?
It says that here. It's written here.
And you know that with respect to your fentanyl drug, one of the ways to do it was to start on a lower opioid like Ultraset. Patient gets on that, becomes opioid tolerant, and then you can move them to Duragesic, right?
No.
That's not true. You deny that.
Well, that's not what we were, that's not what this says here.
That's not my question, so let me make sure you understand. I asked you something very different. Maybe I didn't do a good job. You understand that a way to get a patient tolerant or not naive to opioids would be to start them on something like Ultraset. And then, once they become tolerant, move them to fentanyl. You understand that's one way to do it.
If I was a medical doctor and that was the steps that I was taking, I don't necessarily believe that the forethought is that you would get them tolerant on a drug. You're going to choose the drug that you feel is most appropriate to treat their pain.
I'm talking about from your perspective as the drug company.
And I disagree with the way you framed that out.
Would it be wrong for a company to try to use something like Ultram to bring a patient to tolerance and then move them to a drug like Duragesic that was Schedule II? Would that be wrong?
Again, that would depend. Ask me that again.
Would it be wrong for a drug company to market that you would take a patient who's opioid naive, start them on Ultram, and then get them tolerant so they could then be on Duragesic, a Schedule II narcotic. Would that be wrong to do?
So I don't believe that a drug company could get a patient tolerant on a drug. So I don't think that's possible.
Let me be clear. Would it be wrong for you to market it that way?
To market, get them tolerant on Ultraset and then move them?
Yes.
I don't believe we did that, but I don't believe that would be appropriate for us to do. I don't believe that we did that.
Thank you. Let's go to March 24th, 2004. Holly Abraham in Oklahoma City. This is 204, line 110. This one starts, closed for patient with chronic lower back pain due to injury. And again, it starts with that word, closed. You see that, right?
I do.
Then it goes to the next sentence. Told me that patient chewed the patch and got sick. See that?
I do.
In the response, reinforced that Duragesic is less abusable than the other long-acting on the market, right?
That is written here.
This is in 2004, right?
March 2004.
That is 3 years after your own advisory board warned your company, do not market opioids on abuse potential, right?
Based on that Dawn data from way back then.
It wasn't just about Dawn data. They said don't market on abuse. It's in the document, 35. Do we need to pull it up again?
No.
This is 3 years later, right?
Yes.
And then, again, hit on Ultraset for acute pain, right?
It's written here, yes.
And one of the things that your marketing strategies had at your company was to start marketing that acute pain would turn into chronic pain if it wasn't treated at the acute stage with an opioid, right?
No. No.
You did not do that.
How we marketed was the importance of addressing acute pain so that the patient would achieve the appropriate pain relief and it wouldn't turn into chronic pain.
Ma'am, your company had internal strategic documents that if you did not treat acute pain with opioids, you would run the risk of turning it into chronic pain, right?
I don't believe that, no.
You never did it.
Just acute pain in general, acute pain where the patient is on round-the-clock acute medications,
Acute pain.
potentially could turn into chronic pain if not treated appropriately.
Hit on Ultraset for acute pain, right?
They're messaging on Ultraset, yes.
One moment. Let's go to March 26, 2004. We see Mr. Thornhill again in Oklahoma City. (223) line 296. Duragesic spoke for around 10 minutes at the Narcotics Committee meeting. You there with me?
Which line?
First one?
I'm sorry, I must be on the wrong page.
I think I may have given you the wrong page. 223, line 301. I'm sorry. If I take my glasses off, I cannot see it.
Keep the glasses on.
Can't see the screen. I need
You gotta do what I do, see,
It's a problem. 223, line 301.
I'm there.
Duragesic spoke for around 10 minutes at the Narcotics Committee meeting. You see me there? Ryan?
I see these words.
Okay, and then again, we see Dr. Kessler. He presented there, right?
It appears that way, yes.
And it says specifically, patch tests and other ideas in identifying aberrant behavior. They agreed to have Dr. Kessler in for a program. See that?
I see that, yes.
They continue to see Duragesic as a first option for patients who have suspected abuse concerns, right?
It says that, yes.
Now here, this narcotics committee, they commented on the ever increasing population they deal with, right?
That is written here.
Now you were aware that there were doctors at this time telling Johnson & Johnson and Janssen here in Oklahoma that they were seeing more abuse and addiction here than they'd ever seen before. You were aware of that in the early 2000s, right?
I was not aware that they said those words, no.
If doctors said that to your sales rep, should they have reported that to your company, the sales reps?
If there were specific examples, yes.
Okay. And here it says Ultracet or Ultram, discussed in the fibromyalgia pain as well as using it before going to a short-acting opioid because of better tolerability, comparable efficacy, and low abuse potential. You see that, right?
It is written here.
Ultram is an opioid. We established that earlier, right?
It is a Schedule 2, Schedule 4 opioid.
Here again,
Now, back then it wasn't scheduled.
but it was still an opioid. It always has been.
Yes, it is a weak opioid.
Always will be an opioid.
It is a weak opioid, yes.
An opioid.
A weak opioid, yes.
And here again, with that opioid, after the 2001 Advisory Committee letter or memo to you, marketing, low abuse potential, again, you see that?
Around Ultracet?
You bet.
Well, Ultracet was considered to have a lower abuse potential.
We got a
because
big
of this.
abuse problem. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Ultracet at this time wasn't a scheduled drug, so it did have a lower abuse potential. It was written to be a lower abuse potential.
Your company, man, was involved in fights to keep Ultracet from being upscheduled, right?
They presented data on, I believe. I wasn't involved in that, however.
You fought it. Your company fought it.
Again,
She said she didn't know.
Objection sustained.
Let's go to April 8, 2004. Holly Abraham and Enid. 208-155. Here at the bottom half of this one, told me that Duragesic can be abused. See that?
I see that.
3 years later, after that advisory memo to you, went over DON data and why it is less abused than orals. See it?
It is written here, yes.
We see it again. Hit on Ultracet. He said it was his favorite, right?
It is written here.
Let's go to April 22nd, 2004 in Chickasha again. .202 line 101. Duragesic. Asked him what he dislikes about C2 drugs. He said they are addictive. See that?
I see that, yes.
I showed him the DON data. See that?
I do.
Happened again, didn't it?
It says that written here.
Let's go to June 28, 2004 with Holly Abraham in Oklahoma City. 87 line 209. You there?
I am.
Okay. Good hit on Duragesic. Went over benefits of Duragesic and why he should continue to prescribe Duragesic first line, right?
It's written here.
We go down a sentence. It says, went over DON data to reinforce Duragesic being least abused long-acting. You see it?
I see it written here.
We're seeing something that's returning over and over again. Hit on ultraset for acute pain. Patient with knee pain. See that?
I do.
Okay. Right here in Oklahoma City, right?
It is in Oklahoma City.
Let's go to July 15, 2004. Have you look at 224-308. You there, ma'am?
224-308.
Yes, ma'am. Starts with lunch. You see that?
Yes.
Okay, if we go down to the last couple sentences, again, Duragesic said that he got a new patient on Duragesic that has low back pain. You with me?
I am.
Shared that he worries about abuse a lot, right?
I see that written.
3 years after that advisory board letter to you, again, the sales rep reminds him of the low abuse rate with Duragesic using Dawn data, right?
It says that he used the Dawn data, but again, this is 3 years after the advisory board on previous Dawn data. This is different Dawn data.
3 years after, and 3 years after they warned you, don't sell based on abuse for opioids, right?
Again, asked and answered about 5 times just since we got back from it.
Objection sustained.
Let's go to July 29, 2004. 221-279.
I'm there.
Here, in the middle. She said he wants her to have Duragesic because it's non-addictive. You see that?
I see that now.
I showed him Dawn and said patients could get tolerant to it and physically dependent on it. You see that?
I see that written.
Lost our signal. We may have talked about that one earlier. We'll just move on because
I thought so.
I don't want to use the same one twice and have you get mad at me. All right. August 20th, 2004. Page 216, line 228.
216.
In Midwest City. Here we have it. Duragesic continued to position Duragesic first line, primarily due to abuse potential. See that?
I do.
And then on the bottom, works well with pharmacists across the street with DAW. Now, what does that mean, ma'am?
I believe it means dispense as written.
Okay. And pull through on Ultram, so he says. See that?
I see it written.
Now, at some point in time, Duragesic went off patent, right?
Yes.
You knew it was going to go off patent in the 2005 time period, right?
I believe that was the time frame,
And
yes.
so it became very important with generics coming around that we got doctors, we being Janssen and Johnson & Johnson, got doctors to write DAW on their scripts, right?
If they wrote DAW on the script, they would continue to get the brand drug.
Okay. Let's go to the next one, September 1, 2004. (225) line 313. First word, vouchers. See it?
I see it.
You're fine.
Sorry, I thought I heard.
No. I'm trying to ask our distraction outside to go away.
Sorry. Mr. Ottaway may want to turn it up.
Randy, you're enough of a distraction in here.
It says, Kim had heard at Pain Nurse Program about abuses for Duragesic. You with me?
I see that written.
And your Tulsa rep. I emphasize how rare it is, comparatively speaking, and no street value. See that?
I see that written.
She indicates next call, Matrix, Tech Piece, and Dawn, right?
I see that written, yes.
September 30th, 2004, again in Tulsa. Ultram.
What number?
Oh, I'm sorry. 223 line 292. Ultram showed him Frick. You see that?
I do.
Comes down to Duragesic. Mentions staff's bro who licked the gel and had to be intubated. See that?
I see that
Be
written.
wrong for a company to suggest that Duragesic wasn't being abused in Oklahoma, right?
I don't believe we said it wasn't being abused.
Your sales rep right here was told this by a doctor. Did he have an obligation to go and tell the company?
If it was a side effect or if it was a improper use, yes.
Here, reminded him that it's very rare and many more incidents of abuse with orals. You see that?
I see that written,
And doctor agreed, right?
yes,
Now, I added the word and doctor, but it clearly says agreed, right?
yes.
Okay.
I
Now,
think
asked-
one of these, though, is that and I think you'll agree with me on this one, like, these are not complete notes. So it's very hard for us to look at this and say that this was everything that was talked about. So you would expect more of a discussion to take place, and that's not written down. So I know you're asking me a lot of questions about these, and I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what these representatives, what that discussion looks like.
Well, that's
So,
a guess, right?
what?
What might or might not have been on the notes, right?
Again, we don't know, we weren't there. It's very
Well-
difficult for us to pass judgment on what was said, what the context of this is. So
You required your sales representatives to take notes, right?
it was just usually this was done to remind them as far as what to discuss the next time.
Well, if they were thinking and saying and doing other stuff and they were actually willing to write this kind of thing down, that's pretty scary, isn't it?
Again, what I'm saying is this isn't the full description of everything that they talked about.
Let's just accept that as true. They're willing to write this kind of stuff down, right?
Well, this one wrote this down.
And then something happened in the 2008, 2009 timeframe, right?
What happened in the 2000?
Don't stop putting these kind of notes in your call notes.
Oh, well,
It happened, didn't it?
we changed formats.
We changed putting these notations down and recording them in writing, right?
But as I said, we changed the format of the call notes section and put them into a drop-down so that we could actually learn more from the call notes, so that we could understand what was talked about
We
more.
don't have the text. Y'all stop putting the text in.
Well, you've seen how difficult it is for us to go through all of this. When we put them into the call notes, it was easier, when we did the drop-downs, it was easier for us to look through exactly what they were talking about.
Your sales reps came into the state over 125,000 times, and you're telling me they had the time to go and talk to doctors about these addictive drugs, and you didn't think they should take the time to write down what was being said?
Object to the form of the question, it assumes all of the sales reps came into the state and were not in the state at all.
Overall,
I'm sorry, ask your question again?
Your sales reps made over 125,000 calls in Oklahoma. And you're telling me they didn't have the time to write down even this much after 2008?
Again, we changed the systems to streamline the call notes section.
Perhaps they were calling on doctors with such frequency and intensity that the only thing that mattered was pushing more of your drugs.
No, I don't agree with that.
But we do know the notes aren't there, are they?
We again streamlined that, the notes section after that time frame. We put a new system in place.
Let's look at December 3rd, 2004. Well, let's just go back for a second. Let's go back to this one. We're talking about Tulsa. Did you know that in 2010, Tulsa had the highest prescription opioid overdose death rate of any county in Oklahoma, and was the 18th highest county in the United States of America? Did you know that?
I did not.
We've seen a lot of sales notes from your sales rep in Tulsa, haven't we?
We've seen several call notes.
Thank you, ma'am. Angela Rogers, Purcell, 12/3/2004. This is on page 211-179. Are you there?
211 dash, say that again, 179? Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm there.
We talked about her TX of pain. She said she avoids Oxycontin due to drug seekers. You see that?
I see that written, yes.
We talked about Duragesic and how the abuse potential is very small. Again, a doctor worried about drug seekers, a sales rep responds, Duragesic and low abuse potential, right?
Excuse me, that's not what that said. It says we talked about.
We talked about Duragesic and how the abuse potential is very small, right?
It says that here. I think it could be that the doctor made this comment to the sales representative.
Let's go to December 6, 2004. Angela Rogers in Norman, page 209, 162. Are you there, ma'am?
I am.
Introduce self and new products. He said he avoided using scheduled drugs. See that?
I see that written, yes.
I talked to him about his TX regimen. He said he refers patients to pain management. He discussed hassles of drug seekers. You with me?
I see this written.
There again, we see it. I hit on patch technology and low abuse potential, right?
I see that written.
I hit on DAW. Dispenses written, right?
That's what I read that as, yes.
And I asked him for trial patient when he uses a long-acting opioid, right?
It says that, yes.
Now this is Angela. I would think that would be a woman. Would you agree with me?
I believe so.
And it says he agreed, right?
That is written, yes.
Okay. Eric Thornhill, Oklahoma City, February 1st, 2005. 218-245. Here's an example of a speaker program being used. You there?
I am.
Dual speaker program. Speakers covered off on efficacy, safety, regulation. Abuse potential was the foremost directive the speakers addressed, right?
It is written here, yes.
And here we see Coleman. That's the former DEA agent that your company was paying to go and speak to doctors here in Oklahoma, right?
Coleman spoke across the country.
Y'all paid him to do it, right?
He was on the Speakers Bureau.
Touched on the regulatory side of prescribing, RXing, documentation, and other means to protect yourself were the premise of his discussion. He too reinforced the favor Duragesic has in the eyes of the DEA. Not only is it difficult to abuse, documentation and early refills are much less. You see that, man?
I see that written here, yes.
Let's go to February 23rd, 2005, Oklahoma City, page 207, line 143. Now this one starts by saying, use PS that I have 2 ways to help him avoid RX SAO. See that?
I see that written.
By using Ultraset instead of Lortab for patient with sprains and strains, and when a patient is on COX-2s and having flare-up pain. Let's stop there for a second. Y'all had a marketing campaign called Sprains and Strains, didn't you?
You'd have to show me that.
You don't remember?
I don't remember, no.
Okay. It says when that patient progresses to Lortab around the clock, move them to Duragesic for 3 days of pain control. Say that?
I see that.
And then we have DAW again. Prescribed, Duragesic, DAW, right?
I see that written, yes.
2005, we're in that range of when you're going off patent, correct?
That would be around that time frame.
The doctor says he is concerned with prescribing so much Duragesic. And I reassured him that Duragesic has no street value and is least abused. Right there, your rep, your notes, right ma'am?
I see that written here.
Let's go to April 29, 2005 in Ardmore. Your sales rep, Angela Rogers, page 197, line 49. DAW reminders to all nurses and thank them for their help, right?
It says that.
Now, nurses don't prescribe, correct?
That is correct.
But you knew in your internal studies and marketing strategies that one of the ways to get a doctor to prescribe your drugs was you needed to get into the staff and the nurses and get them loyal to you and your brand, right?
It wasn't loyal to you and the brand. You were educating the nurses around, again, the same that you would the doctor, educating them on the benefits and risks of your drug, and if there were patients they saw that could benefit from your drug.
Ma'am, when your company sought to sell Nucynta, that part of your pain franchise, isn't it true that one of the things that marketed itself to potential buyers was the loyalty that your company had built up with healthcare professionals? Isn't that true?
I don't know what that looked like.
Okay, here it says, we talked about abuse in the Ardmore area. You there?
Which number was this again? I'm sorry.
429, 2005. We're on page 197, line 49.
I see that.
It says benefits of Duragesic discussed. Again, less abuse potential. Family members less likely to steal from loved ones and consistent relief for 3 days. You see that?
I see that written.
So this is 2005, right?
It is?
By 2005, man, we had a problem in Oklahoma, and in fact the country, with increased incidences of prescription drug overdose deaths, right? Let's look at where we were. We've gone over call notes, and we'll go over some more from 2001 through 2005, and look at what we see. Opioid sales are going up. You see that according to this graph, right?
I see that.
And you see something happening with unintentional prescription drug-related overdose death rates, right?
I see that.
During this time, sales are going up, overdoses are going up, and your sales reps are here in this state facing doctors. We've seen it over and over and over again who are expressing a concern with abuse and addiction, and your reps are telling them, as long as you use our drugs, it won't be a problem. Right?
Excuse me, Your Honor, that's not what the call note said necessarily, but if he wants to ask what she thinks, that's fine.
Please rephrase the question. Objection sustained.
In all of the call notes that we've seen that discuss abuse potential and bonding, they were used to push back against concerns about abuse. Correct?
They were talking to the abuse of Duragesic specifically.
During this period of time, from 2001 to 2005, right?
We saw data from 2002 to 2005.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I approach witness?
You may.
I'm going to hand the witness state 0223-0001. Order up here. This is internal Johnson & Johnson document related to Ultram, to Pentadol and Ultram. It asked to be admitted to evidence this morning.
No objection.
State's Exhibit 223 will be admitted into the evidence.
May we publish this, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Now, ma'am, you were involved in the launch of Pentadol, is that correct?
Tapentadol ER.
Okay. Pentadol ER, something you're quite familiar with, right?
I am familiar with Tapentadol,
You had
yes.
a marketing campaign called Neo Pathways.
Neo Pathways was our unbranded.
So let's look at this one. So here in the top bullet point of this memo, it says, huge opportunity for Ultram ER, correct?
It says that there, yes.
And then Tapentadol is a huge opportunity for corporation and all of us, right?
It says that written here, yes.
Okay. And by Tapentadol, that's, you had a branded name for a drug that came out called Nucynta, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, if we go down here, as you were getting ready to launch Tapentadol, which happened in what year, 2009?
Nucynta launched in 2009, yes.
So you had to prep the market for it, right?
Well, we did some unbranded marketing prior to, or unbranded campaign.
So we'll talk about that here a little later, just so the courts understands this. You engaged in unbranded marketing prior to the time you actually launched your drug.
We engaged in an unbranded educational campaign, yes.
Well, you used marketing a minute ago.
Well, again, it wasn't tied to a product specifically, it was unbranded.
So was it marketing or education?
So depending on how you define, it would be an unbranded educational campaign under the marketing budget.
So the money you spent went under the marketing budget, right?
Correct.
There wasn't a separate line item for, quote, education, was there?
No.
So we go to market prep objectives. We can go down that line. We'll actually go right above it. If you see up there, we have opening is critical so you don't confuse customer. Separate Ultram ER and Tapentadol. Separate. See that?
I see that, yes.
Then you have goals. Get customers ready for new products. When we launch, the customers will only need the name to write, right?
It says that.
Okay. Now to prep the market for that drug, you got a heightened awareness of the under-treatment of pain and its consequences, right?
That is written here, yes.
Boy, classic marketing 101. Create that need, sell to the need. It's right there in black and white, isn't it, man?
You're not creating the need here, no, you're heightening the awareness.
You're prepping your market. Your words.
Well, again, in the market that you're in, you're preparing for the launch of your new drug.
The market being opioids.
In this case, tapentadol was an opioid, yes.
Rising tide lifts all ships, doesn't it?
That is your words.
Not my words. We've heard them before.
That was not the intent of this campaign, however. I'll
Well,
disagree with you on that.
Does the campaign ever say when it's unbranded, we just want to sell a specific drug called tapentadol that we're going to launch in a couple of years?
Again, an unbranded campaign, educational campaign, isn't tied to a specific product.
Unbranded educational campaign whose budget was attached to marketing. Right?
Thank you.
Right?
It is in the marketing budget, yes.
So when we get down to market prep objectives, as we said, you got a heightened awareness of the undertreatment of pain and its consequences. Then we go down to market development. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Profile targeted MDs in preparation for launch, right?
I see that, yes.
Reps gain an understanding of how physicians treat pain individually, right?
It says that, yes.
Now here's one. Establish reps as pain experts, right?
It has that written, yes.
How many sales reps did your company use here in the state of Oklahoma from 1997 to the present who were medical doctors specializing in pain treatment? How many?
I'm not aware of any.
The answer's 0, isn't it?
Again, I'm not aware of any.
Sustained.
Are you aware of any? I want to make sure I heard what you said.
She
Of-
said 0.
0. Okay, thank you. Your reps established as pain experts. That was part of the development of a market for you getting ready to launch yet a new opioid, right?
It is written under the market development to establish the reps as pain experts.
Now, the campaign rollout, you remember when Dr. Courtwright was here, he talked about narcotic conservatism. He showed a dam. Do you remember that exhibit he gave?
I do.
Okay. Here, you've got a campaign rollout. And one of the things that y'all like to do in your unbranded marketing is talk about barriers, right?
Yes,
You wanted to take down barriers to access,
we wanted to understand what the barriers were.
and you wanted to eliminate them, right?
We wanted to address them, to understand if you could address them.
There was an entire aspect of your marketing campaign that was designed to remove barriers, man, right?
Again, to address those barriers and remove them if it was deemed appropriate.
Appropriate for your marketing strategy.
No, appropriate for the patients that were being treated.
Let's talk about propriety here in a minute. Let's look above that for a second. Under the campaign rollout, we have field force training, right?
Yes,
Rep intro call, right?
that is written here, yes.
And then something else. What does that say?
Under treatment,
Under treatment. Under treatment of what?
under treatment of pain.
Under treatment of pain. That's right, because that was what you needed to do to prep the market in advance of your next opioid launch, right?
Again, above, it talks to heighten the awareness of the under treatment of pain and its consequences.
Let's go to the next page. Look at the top. You need to accomplish each phase with each customer prior to moving on to the next page. You see that? The next phase.
I see that.
Each one builds on the last, right?
It says that, yes.
Some customers will take one call for a phase and others will take many calls, right?
It says that, yes.
September through March, pilot is 2 weeks. You see that?
I see that, yes.
We go down here. You are a consultant, $1 to $2 billion potential if launched effectively. You see that?
I see that written, yes.
All right, now, I asked you earlier about this. Let's get to it. Openings. Need to set up to launch and sell Ultran ER. That means extended release, right?
ER means extended release, yes.
When we go down it, let's just walk through it. Set up expectations, pilot, get their feedback, what this is going to look like, and that you will discuss Ultram ER. See that?
I see that.
And down, I asked about nurses. Look at the bottom. Pull in nurses to discussion with physicians, right?
I see that, yes.
Now, as we get ready to launch, we go to under treatment of pain. Scroll up, please, Mr. Medina. Discuss moderate to severe pain patients, no post-op or ER pain patients. You see that?
I see that written, yes.
If customers balk at post-op pain or ER data, they are your patients that come back to see you in primary care, right?
That's what's written.
Okay. Utilize calculation and example to simplify page 2 of the under treatment skip graph. You see that?
I see that written.
Check in if the customer totally agrees, and then it says something else, doesn't it?
Yes.
Don't move until you have it done. Right?
It says that here, yes.
Don't quit. Keep selling. Close. That's what you taught your folks.
Well, they're not necessarily closing here. They're just asking, or they're having a conversation with the physician to see if they're aligned with what's taking place or not.
You're right. They're not necessarily trying to close the product here. They're just trying to prep the market for when you launch your product, right?
Again, this is an educational campaign prior to the launch.
There are consequences to the under treatment of pain that I would like to discuss next time, right?
It says that here, yes.
How many calls do you get back from patients who are struggling? You see that?
I see that written, yes.
Now we go back to a pain management index developed from the WHO pain ladder. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Now we heard Dr. Portnoy testify about that WHO pain ladder. You were in the courtroom when he did that, right?
I was.
You know that the WHO pain ladder was about severe cancer pain. It was not intended to be used for chronic non-cancer pain, was it?
It was originally for cancer pain, yes.
Well, did it change?
That I am not sure.
So next we go, if stopped on page 1, gain agreement and set up next time. You see that?
I do.
Let's go to consequences of undertreatment. So when you're trying to set that need of undertreated pain, you got to sell the doctor that if they don't treat it, there's a consequence, right?
Where does it say that?
Consequences of undertreatment. You with me?
I'm with you on consequences of undertreatment.
Review what we agreed upon about chronic pain. See that?
I see that, yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Now there's something else right here, man, isn't it? This is the hook, right?
It says that there, yes.
Thank you. But there's more. Remember I asked you about should you sell or market opioids with the idea that if you don't treat acute pain, it's going to result in chronic pain. And then I asked the next question, should you take it the next step and say we ought to start prescribing opioids? Remember all that?
I remember that.
You told me it'd be wrong to do something like that, right?
Objection, mischaracterization.
You didn't say that?
Sustained.
Same objection. I'll ask a different question. Unresolved acute pain can lead to chronic pain. You see that?
I do see that, and that was well documented in the medical literature.
It was?
As far as I know, yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Positive? That's your testimony. It is well documented in the medical literature.
Ask and answer.
Sustained.
What medical literature?
The medical literature that was out at the time this was written.
Which one?
I don't know specifically.
Just any?
I don't know what the specific.
Let's go to the next page. from symptom to a disease state. You see that?
I do.
It goes on to say, second graph on page 2, unresolved acute pain can evolve into chronic pain. You see that there?
I do.
Now remember, as we talked about, this is just setting up to prep the market for the launch of an opioid that's yet to come, right?
This is the educational campaign prior to.
Unbranded marketing campaign that deals with opioids generally, not a specific opioid, right?
This is an unbranded campaign.
Chronic pain could be prevented if the acute pain was treated properly. The undertreatment of acute pain can cause continual oversensitivity of neurons and develop, remodel into chronic pain. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Hurt back from shoveling snow or over time develops into chronic pain. What do you think? You see that?
I do.
Now we go down here, it says, need to ensure that they buy into patient effects of quality of life.
That's part of the discussion that they're having with the physician.
Set up talking about barriers next time. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Emotional selling. See that?
I do.
It doesn't say emotional educating, does it?
It does not.
It doesn't. It says selling, emotional selling, because what this always was about, what it had always been about, was selling opioids, right?
This particular campaign was around educating the market around some of the issues that were in the marketplace at that time.
A marketplace that you were in.
Yes.
Creating dialogue. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Let's go down to model 2, Mike. Can you give me an example of when a patient whose acute pain developed into chronic condition? Do you see that?
I do.
And it goes on to say, what other conditions have you seen that lead to chronic pain? What other consequences are there if moderate to severe pain is left undertreated? You see that?
I do.
Let's go to the third bullet point under questions. How does this relate to Ultran ER? You with me?
I see this, yes.
Make a very specific shift from Ultran ER to tapentadol, separate and distinct line. You see that?
I do.
We are focusing on the process, not a product. Those are your words, not mine, right?
I see that written, yes.
This is not a setup of how I want you to think about Ultran ER. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Let's go back to something. Go to page 2, Mike. Consequences of undertreatment. You see where you pull out, this is the hook, Mike? Ma'am,
What?
please tell me, what is educational about a hook?
So where are, let me just see where you are. In a conversation, the way I read this is in a conversation, you are determining whether or not you and I are, agreeing with different things, we're talking about different things, and if there is something that you agree on, that is like, okay, now we can move on. That's what they're calling here a hook that now can continue the conversation further.
So when you were pitching consequences of undertreatment to prep the market, this is the hook was meant to be educational.
So again, this is an educational campaign, and what you're doing here is you're reviewing what they talked about prior around chronic pain, and you have to make sure that, yes, did they agree with you with what you talked about prior? And then you can move on.
You ever been fishing?
I have.
What do you use to catch them?
Say that again?
What do you use to catch them?
Depends on what you're fishing for.
Use a hook.
Oh, yes.
And when you get a fish on the line, one of two things is going to happen, right?
Yes. Well,
You're going to keep them on the line and keep them on the line and keep them on the line until you reel them in, and then you can choose whether to set them free or harvest them, right? That's one thing that can happen, right?
potentially, yes.
The other thing is they can fight for their very life and their survival, and hopefully they will break free somehow, right?
Or they just pop off.
Not unlike addiction at all, is it?
This is about an interaction with a doctor.
You know, I hear chuckles from my right. Is addiction a funny thing?
Not at all.
Not at all. What do you have?
It's actually, the chuckles came from the other side.
Effective marketing strategies often involve a hook. Is that true? You're a marketing person.
I don't know as I would write it that way.
Hooks are short phrases or jingles designed to entice a customer to purchase a product or sign up for a service, right?
Where are you reading this from? Is this the Merriam Dictionary?
Read
No?
something. You're a marketing expert. How do you define a hook?
Personally, the first thing that I would define a hook from is exactly what we talked about, is the fishing hook. That's how I would define it.
Okay, we'll go with that. Thank you. Talk about marketing hooks. May I approach you?
Just a question, are we gonna be using 4373 similar this afternoon?
As long as you allow it.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll let you approach.
Yes.
We'll go back to it now. You'll turn to tab 5 of your notebook, please, Dan. Oh, you're teaching 259-2.
I see it.
Angela Rogers, March 18, 2005, in Moore, Oklahoma, which is right up the road. 2 ways to reduce Lortab business. Use before Lortab with proper dosing for comparable efficacy. You with me?
I see that written.
I close for strains and spraying patients from spring break. Nice weather, people become more active, and skiing trips. You see that?
I do.
And it follows. Duragesic updates and importance of DAW. Close for conversion patients with DAW. See that?
I see that, yes.
So we've got it Ultram first in the call, followed by Duragesic, right?
I see that, yes.
Let's go to March 21st, 2005. 259-13 in tab 5. Your company had a spring break blitz marketing campaign, didn't it?
I wasn't aware of that.
Well, here we have 2 ways to reduce Lortab in the clinic. Ultra set for all those patients with spring break sprains and strains before Lortab. See that?
I see that, yes.
Now, the document we just looked at was a little later in time. You were prepping to launch Nucynta in 2008, 2009, right?
That was an educational campaign prior to the launch of Nucynta.
And I asked you some questions a little bit ago about putting someone on Ultram and then moving them to Duragesic. You recall that?
I recall that.
Okay, so here we have a sales rep, Holly Abraham. When pain progresses, move patient to Duragesic, DAW. You see that?
I see that.
Ask what need to do to get DAW on RX. See that?
I do.
Remind him and LaShawn, right?
I see that.
Remember a minute ago, we saw in that document a little later about bringing nurses into the conversation?
I do.
I don't know that LaShawn's a nurse, but here it says, talk to LaShawn about making sure to write DAW and educate patient not to take generic at pharmacy. You see that?
I do.
Now, I don't want to use the doctor's name here, but you can look, if I may approach you. The name of the doctor there is not LaShawn, is it?
It does not appear, no.
Let's go to the next one. March 18, 2005. Oh, I went the wrong way. Let's go to March 21st, 2005, Holly Abraham in Oklahoma City. Same day as the last one. 259-12. Good hit on Ultraset for his spring break, sprains, and strains. See that?
I see that.
RX Ultraset before Lortab because of better side effect profile and less abuse potential. See that?
I do.
Here it comes. Hit on Duragesic and commitment to write, dispense as written on prescription. See that?
I do.
Now that's a hook, isn't it?
What?
Dispense is written. Get it on the prescription so that when they go to the pharmacy, that's the drug.
I wouldn't call that a hook, no. I would just call it that if you want the brand drug, you need to write DAW on it. There was a lot of,
Who wants the brand drug?
if the physician wants the patient to get the brand drug.
2005, you're going off patent. Got generics out there, right?
I believe there was a generic, but there was also problems with that generic too, so
Which generic?
the generic for Duragesic.
Which one?
I don't know which one. I just remember that there were problems with the generic.
Problems with the generic Duragesic?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. March 22nd, 2005. Let's go to 26028. Good hit on using Ultraset for spring break, sprains, and strains before Lortab. He says that he does not use Lortab if he can help it. You see that?
I do.
When the patient pain progresses, move that patient to Duragesic. See that?
I see that written, but I think that there's a period, so I do believe we're talking about a separate patient here. And
I don't know. Let's just go to this, what you just said. Let's break this sentence down. When patient pain progresses, move that patient to Duragesic. You see that?
I do.
Now we see the word again. We've seen it a lot. Move, right?
I see that.
Move is a word you use in your internal strategic documents, right?
We've seen move.
And write DAW on the RX and educate patient not to accept generic, right?
It's written there, yes.
Now remember, I asked you yesterday if we saw somewhere in your documents where it said influence, but what we really mean by influence is educate, I wanted you to stop me, right?
Yes.
And you agreed with me. Now here we do see on your sales note, educate, right?
It says that, yes.
But what you're asking is for the doctor to educate the patient to not accept a generic brand, right?
That's what it says here, yes.
Because if they accept a generic brand, you don't get paid for it unless you're tied to that generic brand.
And again, I believe that this is the decision of the physician, whether or not they want that patient to get the brand drug or the generic drug.
It should be the decision of the physician, except you've got sales reps in their office trying to move them to your strategy.
Well, I don't see, they're moving the patient to Duragesic because obviously that patient needs, or again, if that patient is appropriate for round-the-clock, chronic pain, needs that analgesia. But the DAW, again, is the choice of the physician.
As influenced by your sales rep.
And again, I would say, still, the doctor's decision.
Have you ever done target practice like shot a gun or bow and arrow?
Yes, sir, I have.
Which one?
Both.
Okay, so let's use archery. You pull the bow back, you get your arrow ready to go, and you let it fly, right?
Yes, sir.
It goes to the target,
Yes, sir.
and when it gets to the target, it does something. What?
If it hits the target,
Hits the target, and what do we have right here? Holly Abraham, what does it say?
Okay, it just says good hit.
Good hit. All right, let's go to 3/22/2005 with Angela Rogers at Ardmore.
I would, just to make it clear, I would say good hit just means good call for her, or whatever.
That's what you would say.
I'm assuming that's what,
Let's look what she said. Good hit, right? And we, right?
she says it, yeah,
And
there,
what did
yes.
what did y'all call doctors?
Targets.
Targets, thank you. 3/22/2005, Ardmore, Oklahoma, sales rep Angela Rogers. That would be 260, page 17. Luncheon, Ultraset, spring break blitz. You with me?
I see this,
Now,
yes.
this is a different representative. This is not Holly Abraham, right?
Correct.
So, same period of time, different rep. As I said earlier, y'all had a spring break blitz program. We now see at least another agent using it, right?
And this is tied to Ultraset.
I talked to doctors and staff about Ultraset for spring breaks, sprains, and strains, right?
I see that.
I asked them to use Ultraset with proper dosing over Lortab, right?
It says that, yes.
PA, that would be physician's assistant.
I don't know.
You know, that's a common way to say it.
Yes.
Told story about problem patient and using tramadol. See that?
I see that.
We know over time we've had significant problems with abuse of tramadol in this state, right?
I was not aware of that, no.
You weren't aware that tramadol is abused?
I was not aware that it was abused significantly in this state.
You know it's significantly abused in the country, right?
I don't know that.
Just had a new study come out the other day. Did you not read it?
I did not.
Here it says, I talked about using Ultraset for patients because it is not a narcotic. You see that?
I see that.
Now, I heard you say earlier it's a weak opioid, but you've agreed with me a lot that it is an opioid, right?
Yes.
Well, and here it says, I asked them to use Ultraset instead of others. They said they have been using it, right?
It says that here, yes.
Let's go to March 23rd, 2005, Holly Abraham in Reno.
The answer,
Mr. Holloway would like the answer repeated again.
Your answer to my last question, I think, was yes.
What was your, I'm sorry. I was already moving on.
I don't recall.
don't worry
Answer,
about
it
You
says
got
it here,
You
yes.
got it.
Proceed on.
3/23/2005, Holly Abraham in Reno. 261-34. Two ways to reduce Lortab in clinic. Ultraset for spring break, sprains, and strains, and when pain progresses. You with me so far?
I am?
Let's just break that down. And when pain progresses, RX, you understand that's being prescribed, right?
Yes.
Duragesic, right?
I see that, yes.
When pain progresses, prescribe Duragesic, dispense as written, and educate patients to say no to generics since not a lot is known about them, right?
I see that, yes.
And eliminate hassle of paperwork on case fails generic. See that right there, right?
I see that written. Not-
Ultram, spring break, sprains and strains, progressive, prescribed Duragesic. All right there. In that document.
Again, I think the goal here is use Ultraset before you go to Lortab, which Lortab was a Schedule 3, correct? So before you have to go, this is Ultraset. Then it's, if pain progresses where you need a Schedule 2, then Duragesic is a good choice.
The hook.
No, it's not a hook. It's a different patient or a patient that is progressing into chronic pain if they're not getting there.
For
Pain
Duragesic, you
If-
need to make sure they're opioid tolerant.
Right, but again, I believe that this is a different patient, the way they've written this.
Okay. March 24th, 2005 in Shawnee, Angela Rogers. She's a sales rep, 26139. Duragesic, DAW reminder with rebate coupons and MC update. And then we go to Ultran. You with me?
Yes?
Ultran, or ULT, before Lortab, with proper dosing for spring, break, strains, and sprains, right?
I see that, yes.
Unless anybody ever say that doctors didn't buy these messages, the last word is what?
Agreed.
Let's go to March 25th, 2005 in Norman, Oklahoma, Angela Rogers. This is 262-52. Ultra set before Lortab for spring break patients. See it?
I do?
We talked about March Madness and how patients are more active when weather gets nice, right?
I see that, yes?
Closed for proper dosing of Ultraset for this patient types before Lortab, period, right?
Yes?
Right. And we see again the word agree, right?
It says that, yes?
And we see this word right before it, closed. One of your marketing strategic words, right?
Closed for proper dosing of Ultraset.
For this patient types before Lortab, right?
It says that, yes?
March 30th, 2005 in Duncan. Sales rep Angela Rogers, 263, line 68. DAW message, an importance of keeping patients on pain relief they have worked so hard to control. See that?
I see that, yes?
Start on, stay on, right?
That does not say that here.
That was a marketing strategy you used.
I
And
don't
answered
agree with that.
several times, Your Honor.
Sustain.
I asked them to use rebate coupons. We've talked about coupons a lot, right?
Again, we've talked about coupons, yes, allowing patients to trial the drug.
They talked to me about hospice patients. They agreed to write dispenses written, right?
It says that,
Then
yes?
we get to Ultran. ULT, proper dosing for spring break, sprains, and strains. We see it again, don't we?
We see it, yes?
And let's go to the next one. Going backwards. March 30th, 2005. Michael Hull in Lawton. This is an easy one, at page 263, line 69. Remember earlier I said you had a spring break blitz? Recall me asking about that?
I remember, yes?
Here we have defend blitz. See it?
I see it written here, yes?
April 1, 2005. Representative Scott Barkus. 26499. We're going line by line for me if you'll get there. 26499, Tulsa. Spring bait message, UB4, use coupons with DAW. You there in your book?
I see that, yes?
Spring break message, next one, line 100, with UB4, DAW with coupons. See it in your book?
I see that, yes?
Line 101, spring break message, DAW with coupon, instant savings. See it in your book?
I do?
Lines 102, 103, and 104 continue. Spring break message, UB4, DAW with coupons. Spring break message, UB4, stressed coupon use with DAW. Spring break message, UB4, stressed DAW with coupon. It's all there in your book, isn't it, man?
I see it written there, yes?
This was indeed a blitz. March 29, 2005. 266-132. You'll see it. We're still going, right?
I'm sorry, tell me that page again?
266-132.
I'm there.
Fast break, spring break blitz. Melinda Dixon again in Bartlesville. See it?
I see that.
Reduce the number of Lortab prescriptions coming out of your office. DAW Duragesic. See that?
I see that,
And
yes.
it has something in quotes. What does it say?
Got it.
Got it. April 8, 2005, Melinda Dixon again in Tulsa. 266, line 140. UCT, spring break message, gave him 2 water bottles. Said to use 2 UCT for people who come in with sprains and strains after going out rollerblading, etc. See it?
I see that, yes.
At the bottom, Duragesic reminder to use coupons and dispense as written.
I see that, yes.
April 12, 2005, Angela Rogers and McAllister. This is 265, line 122. Breakfast, 2 ways to reduce Lortab conversion of 5 to 6, can't sleep through the night. See that?
I see that.
Down at the bottom. ULT 2468, half the side effects, comparable relief, spring, break, strains, weather. See it?
I see that.
The spring break blitz is still going on, isn't it?
Again, I believe that this was a campaign or a blitz during the springtime.
April 8th, 2005, 267152. And Duncan. DAW message brought with Sonic. See that?
I see that.
Have you had an opportunity to go to Sonic?
I have not.
You should. I suggest the tater tots. You guys were bringing Sonic to doctors in Duncan, right?
Say that again?
You, Jansen, your sales rep, were bringing food, here's Sonic, into the doctor's office, right?
Yes, it appears that way.
I talked to them about the importance of keeping patients on Duragesic. See that?
I see that written here.
Again, keeping patients on,
Again, I don't know what the discussion was about that.
but it's there.
It is written here.
Oh, ULT, proper dosing for spring break strains. There once again, right?
I see that.
Thank you. Is it ever okay to prescribe a narcotic for sprains and strains?
That is a medical question, and I am not a medical doctor.
You were running the tramadol marketing campaign, I'm sorry, the tapentadol marketing campaign we looked at a minute ago, weren't you?
Okay,
Let me start over, because I messed up there. You were running the marketing for tapentadol pre-launch, right?
I was part of that brand team.
And while that document we looked at a minute ago was later in time than this media blitz or the spring break blitz, it talked about Ultram, right?
We talked about Ultram ER.
Okay. You're involved in the market, right?
I'm involved in the marketing of tapentadol.
Well, that document had Ultram and tapentadol, both in it, right?
But I was not involved in the marketing for Ultram.
Somebody else was in that document?
Likely, yes.
Likely or in fact?
I don't remember Ultram being marketed during that time, so it would be someone else.
Should the person in charge of marketing understand the medical side of the drugs they're marketing?
Absolutely.
So you understand tapentadol, but you don't understand Ultram?
I understand Ultram.
Okay. So the question I asked was, is it okay to prescribe a narcotic for strains and sprains.
And asked
And-
and answered your
I think I've laid a proper.
I'll overrule, he's laid a foundation.
And I answered your question by saying, I can't answer that question because I'm not a medical professional. That would be up to the doctor to understand or to determine that patient who came in with a sprain or a strain, if they were in the pain that required that, whatever analgesia they provided.
But your marketing was designed to educate the doctor, so how could you educate if you don't know?
We're putting in front of the doctor a potential patient that may need that pain relief. And so the doctor ultimately makes that decision who to prescribe to.
Can you go back to the doctor? You just said, I want to make sure I heard you right. You said we're putting in front of the doctor a patient, right?
So, no, you're basically, the sales representative is selling to the doctor.
Go ahead.
The sales representative is, talking to the doctor about a situation, a different patient that may come in and have different symptoms. And if those symptoms are, if Ultram is needed for those symptoms, then that doctor has that,
Go ahead.
ultimately can make that decision, whether or not to write what drug they feel appropriate for that patient.
Give me just 1 second. I'm trying to find it. Now, let's go back up to the first page. You look at 22303. If you go to market development, Mike, can you pull that up? You just went through a lot about not knowing who was supposed to do what with narcotics.
Excuse me, Your Honor,
Yep.
that's not said. Object to
I'll
Withdraw, or rephrase, please.
You said you weren't able to answer the question about whether it was appropriate to use narcotics for sprains and strains, right?
Correct, because I believe that would be a decision that a doctor would make.
Okay. Now, you were in charge of marketing for the tapentadol launch, right?
Tapentadol ER.
Okay. This document we went over a minute ago, I've blown up market development. You were in charge of marketing as it would go down to your sales reps, right?
So again, for ER, so this is tapentadol. But I understand tapentadol.
When we see tapentadol up there, it says huge opportunity for Ultram ER, right?
I see that, yes.
So this happened in 2008, and that sprains and strains campaign we just went over was 2005, right?
I believe, yes.
Okay. Now, you never went back and corrected it or told doctors it was not okay to do.
She
I-
says she's not qualified to render an opinion.
That's not what I asked you. I said, did your
Overrule.
did your company go back and market and tell doctors don't use Ultram for sprains and strains?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Now, I asked you a minute ago about what was or was not appropriate with using narcotics for sprains and strains, right?
I don't know, as you asked me what was appropriate, you asked me if it was appropriate, and I said I wouldn't be able to answer that because the patient in front of the doctor he has to make that decision.
Okay, so let's pull that back up, Mike. Right here under market development, third bullet point, establish reps as pain experts. See that?
I do?
How can a sales rep who's not a doctor ever be an expert in the treatment of pain?
This is written as they want to make sure that they know as much as they can about pain and
Where does it say that? Where does it say on the line, established reps as pain experts? Where does it also say they wanted to know as much as they could about pain? Where does it say that?
It doesn't say that. I apologize. I thought you were asking me what I thought it meant,
I
so.
did not ask you that.
Okay.
We have time and time again where we see the words that your company uses in black and white and you add to them.
And again, I thought that you wanted me to explain,
I believe only the court can.
and I apologize.
Sustained.
Thank you.
Let's go back to your book. Actually, I'm going to hand you some out of there that I haven't had yet. I don't know if this one's in your book, so I'm going to just give you this. Okay? Okay, man, we'll just go down these one by one. This is from your sales call notes. What you have is exactly what's on the screen. On May 29, 2002, we have a call note from a sales rep, Ms. Babar in Oklahoma City. And remember, over the last couple of days, we've talked about a word that Jansen used with respect to sales targets, that word influence. You remember we've talked about that?
The word influence?
Yes, ma'am.
We've talked about the word influence.
So here's the sales rep here. It says, continue to sell DR bottomly on Procrit and Duragesic. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. It says, even though he is just part-time, he is an elder in the oncology community and has the respect of other doctors. He may be more influential than once thought. You see that?
I do?
Okay. Let's go to the next one. On August 15th, 2002, Herbert Bowman, Wagner. Doctor out on Fridays and leaves at 3 p.m. on Wednesdays. Stephanie influences the decision making. You see that?
I do?
November 14, 2002, Mr. Babar again in Oklahoma City, talking about another doctor. He is not easily influenced and has his own ideas. Again, we see the word influence, right?
I see it here, yes.
Here we've got a doctor that your sales rep says is not easily influenced, right?
I see it written here, yes.
February 6, 2003, Miss Van Berkeley again in Broken Arrow. Lunch with James. We got another lunch, right?
It says that here, yes.
Even though she cannot write Duragesic, she has a lot of influence over Dr. Campbell, right?
That's what is written here.
Now look at this. Asked her to switch patients that are taking Lorgab around the clock. Let's step back for a second. Your sales rep is saying she had lunch with someone that cannot write the prescription, but who has a lot of influence over the doctor, right? Right?
It says that.
And your sales rep says, asked her to switch patients, right?
I don't know who they're talking about here.
This was never about education. It was about influence to write more prescriptions for opioids. All times and every time, wasn't it?
No.
May 13, 2003. Eric Thornhill, Oklahoma City. Duragesic. Went to lunch mainly congratulating him on his new award. Follow up with how he can help influence Dr. Hancock with the positioning of Duragesic in elderly patients. See that right there?
I see that written.
Now, we looked at that McKinsey report earlier, and it showed that one of your areas for growth was elder care, long-term care for elderly patients, right?
Again, that was listed as one of our areas that we are indicated in.
And here we have your rep going to lunch, following up to see how he can help influence a doctor, right?
Following up with one of the doctors.
To influence.
I think he's following up with the doctor to see if the doctor can talk to the other doctor about Duragesic.
Not talk to, influence.
He uses the word influence here, yes.
Not educate.
But again, I would go back to, how do you influence? You have to educate.
How do you influence? That's your question.
Well, my point is that I believe in this case, in where we are and what we do, that you influence through education.
Well, how y'all influenced was you sent sales reps into the state of Oklahoma over and over and over and over again, called upon doctors, got other people to help to influence.
I don't agree with that.
August 11, 2003. "4 grams of acetaminophen, what might a patient say?" Clarifying based on what patients say. Here we go. What influences him to pick oxy or Duragesic? Right?
That's a question.
Uncover what a patient must say. See that?
I see that written.
Doesn't say what educates him to pick oxy or Duragesic. It said what influences him, right?
It does say that, yes.
September 4th, 2003, Mr. Thornhill again in Newcastle. Duragesic. "We went through the pain chronicles over lunch and they felt there were some key takeaways that would," what word does it use?
Influence.
"Influence them in their" what?
Prescribing.
"Influence them in their prescribing." It doesn't say educate, does it?
It does not say educate here, no.
February 11th, 2004. Shawnee, Mr. Thornhill again. "Duragesic primarily feels that most patients prefer pills. He offers Duragesic first because it is his favorite. However, he also said, I won't get all of his business, maybe 30%. He isn't big on the hard sell." Let's look at the bottom. "He now trusts his staff, who will be key to educate." All right, now look at this. We see the word educate, right?
Yes?
"As they have more leeway to" what?
Influence.
Who?
Him.
"And continue to close with vouchers," right?
It says that, yes.
Yes.
Let's go to June 24th, 2002. See what's that, we get a page of mine. We can do those. Got it? I'm sorry. Let's go to February 24th, 2003. This is tab 2, page 79, line 93.
I'm sorry, say that again. Tab 2.
Lines, page 79, line 93. This is Michael Hull and Duncan. You ever met Michael Hull?
I have not.
Discuss patient assistance program for Duragesic and also discuss the ability for patient to improve mental health when converted to Duragesic from round-the-clock SAO. You see that?
I see that.
Doctor is very concerned with abuse potential, right?
I see that written.
Once again, discuss DON data being used again by Mr. Hull there, right?
I see that.
And doctor stated Oxyrep said Duragesic is abused more than any other long-acting opioid. See that?
I see that written.
Doctor was upset at Oxyrep and said he would reevaluate his long-acting opioid prescribing habits. All there, right?
I see that written.
July 8, 2003, Melinda Dixon in Broken Arrow. '81, line 111. Lunch today. This is Mrs. Dixon using lunch again in her sales tactics, right?
Yes.
Audra said she had REC, her grandma-in-law, be put on Duragesic because suspect her son is using her Lortabs, right?
I see that written.
Likes low abuse potential, right?
I see that written.
Showed her Dawn data.
I see that written.
Dr. Hill said he uses Duragesic for long-acting opioids for NH and always hospice, is also concerned about abuse potential with orals. You see that?
I do.
Goes on to say, gave him 3 vouchers, and he said he would definitely use. Right after it says cost is the biggest issue with Duragesic, right?
I see that.
July 28, 2003. Linda Dixon in Tulsa again. Page 81, line 122. Duragesic said she wished she get all her patients on LAO and SAO on Duragesic. Said many don't want to give up pills, but those who are truly in pain, quote, love it, end quote, i.e. Duragesic. Gave her 2 vouchers and asked her to use to convert patients from short-acting opioids to Duragesic, right?
It says that, yes.
Showed her conversion chart and she agreed it's a much better product. Said, quote, you hardly can abuse it. See that?
I see that written.
Melinda Dixon says, I showed her Dawn, right?
I see that, yes.
She said she'd heard a lady's dog had eaten used patches and was in the ER for it, right?
I see that written.
September 25th, 2003, Melinda Dixon again in Tulsa. Page 82, line 137. Gave him 2 more packs of vouchers. Told him last week I'd bring more by. See that?
I see that written.
We talked earlier about how Avenza was also marketing to some of your doctor targets. You recall that?
I do.
And here Melinda Dixon saying, sure, he's being hit by Avenza with theirs, so need to keep him stopped. See that?
I see that, yes.
And he said when he runs out of vouchers, he doesn't start new patients on Duragesic. You got that there from Miss Dixon, right?
I see that written.
And her response is, may or may not be true, but want to make sure he has them anyway, right?
I see that.
Let's go to October 24, 2003 with Linda Dixon again in Tulsa. Page 83, line 145. Rescheduled talk for 11/13. He said he wants to keep informal. He gave me a list of docs he said want to come. So this is likely talking about a speaking engagement, right?
I don't know, but I would guess potentially.
Now, one of the things we looked at yesterday in some of your internal documents was that primary care physicians was a major part of your customer segment for doctors, right?
Primary care physicians were in our group, yes.
In the documents we looked at yesterday, they were greater than 50%.
Yes, and again, we've talked about before, those are PCPs that were writing long-acting opioids.
And I told him my main goal was to help PCPs ID more patients appropriate for Duragesic, right?
Again, yes, appropriate patients.
Well, Melinda Dixon's not a doctor.
No, she's not.
Here at the bottom it says, many just have niche for cancer and elderly. We've talked about how that was a limited market for you, right?
That was originally what we launched in.
Told him I want him to talk about expanded use of Duragesic with other chronic pain patients. See that?
I do?
January 26, 2004, Mr. Hull again, this time in Lawton. Try to get the page line real quick. Oh, I got it. Page 85, line 171. I'm going to skip this, man. I'm pretty sure we already covered this one. Let's go to April 21st, 2004. Be page 86, line 193. Linda Dixon, Tulsa. Let's look at this one. We'll break this down into parts. Amiable. I need to throttle back a lot. LOT is capitalized, isn't it?
It is?
Duragesic hasn't used it. Said cost is a big factor, but confirmed he'd used oxy, also meth, which would be methadone. Right?
I don't know, but probably. I don't know.
Well, we would both hope a doctor's not prescribing methamphetamines, right?
Yes.
Spoke to increased function, low abuse potential. See that?
I see that.
Asked how it's abused, right?
I see that.
She writes, EXP, but showed him Dawn, and before I could say it, he said, most people don't want to work that hard.
I see that written.
I agreed and said there were so many other prescriptions available for abuse and easier to get and easier to abuse. See that?
I see that written.
That's your sales rep. In 2004, as we are headed rapidly to a crisis, saying there's so many other drugs out there that people can use and abuse. And she's saying that right there to a doctor, right?
Again, I object to the form of the question when it's preceded by a speech. Just the question would be appropriate.
Objection sustained.
Ma'am, this is in 2004, right?
It is, yes.
We are, as we just looked at that graph, and you know now as you look backwards, we were rapidly ascending to a crisis, right?
It looked like there was abuse happening.
Your folks told you in 2001 in Exhibit 35 that we had a problem already and to be wary, right?
Objection misstates what's in the exhibit.
You saw it.
Sustained.
You know your, excuse me. All right.
I sustain.
You saw in that document, Exhibit 35, your folks warning you there was a
Same
problem.
question, Your Honor. Objection.
Please rephrase the question.
You knew in 2001 there was a problem.
You have to, you show me so many documents, I don't know which document you're talking about, so.
Ma'am, you ran point on tapentadol in 2009. Is it your testimony that you didn't know in 2001 we had a problem brewing?
I'm not testifying, no, to that.
You agree that you knew in 2001 there was a problem brewing?
That opioids were addictive, yes.
And that availability of opioids was causing problems throughout the country?
I don't know if it was specifically that.
And you knew by 2004 that incidents of ER visits, substance abuse disorder, and death were rising?
Excuse me, Your Honor, she's answered this several times. I object.
Objection overruled.
You knew it.
We saw the increased utilization.
And right here in 2004, when a doctor talks about abuse and asking how your drug could be abused, your rep says there were so many other drugs available for abuse and easier to get and easier to abuse.
I think you're taking this out of context. If this is a discussion that's between the doctor and the representative, and as I've said before, I don't know what was said during this. I wasn't there, I wasn't in the room. I believe this was a back and forth that they were having. I don't know what was said by the doctor and what was said by the rep. Bless you.
Well, the context, ma'am, was that in 2004, we had more opioids available and we had more abuse happening. True.
There was abuse happening in 2004.
We had more deaths happening by 2004. True.
And again, I would assume yes.
And when you launched Tapentadol in 2009, we were almost at the peak of the opioid crisis, right?
You'd have to show me that again to know exactly where that peak was.
You
I
know
don't-
it was bad.
I do know that it was increasing.
You know that you launched Tapentadol right in the middle of a lot of problems.
And we thought tapentadol was a great drug.
You went back into the market with a new opioid right when oversupply and death and addiction continuing to rise.
Again, objection in the form of the question assumes facts not in evidence to which this witness has said she does not know.
Objection overruled.
Right?
Again, I believe that we launched Nucynta because we felt it was a great drug.
You sold it too, didn't you?
We divested it, yes.
Divested it, you got money from it, right?
We did, yes.
How much?
I don't know the exact amount.
More than $1 billion, right?
I believe so, yes.
What'd you do with that money?
Sir, I don't know.
Right
Mr.
here
Beck,
it's-
we're going to break at this point.
Thank you,
Okay.
Aaron.
Let's take a 20-minute break. We'll start again at 3:40. seats. Mr. Pate, you'd said at break that you might needed to talk to us about depot designation objections.
It's the same that you asked me about, the video.
Oh, okay. Fine. I just wasn't aware we were doing that.
Oh, I thought you heard it.
No?
Medina, may I approach?
Yes, you may.
John, we'll go back to the one we were just looking at. It started on this April 21st, 2004, Melinda Dixon called him. Just kind of start over. It says, amiable. I need to throttle back a lot. Duragesic hasn't used it. See that?
I see that written here.
She says, spoke to increase function, low abuse potential, asked how it's abused, explained but showed him dawn, and before I could say it, he said most people don't want to work that way. Remember we went over that just a minute ago?
I see that, yes.
The part we didn't get to was at the end it says, ULT, I need more of that business. You see that?
I see that written.
The word need is all caps, right?
I see that written.
PRXs a ton of Lortabs, explained Ultraset, uses Ultram, but wasn't familiar with Ultraset. You see that?
I see that.
Left him samples.
I see that, yes.
Next call, Simpson and Frick. You see that?
I do.
Now, y'all had an agreement with Purdue on Ultraset, right?
Sir, I'm not aware of that. I don't know that.
We don't deny.
I don't know it.
Okay. We'll get to that. Angela Rogers, McAllister, June 14th, 2005. This is page 90, line 255. Five to six Lortab patients who can't sleep through the night with DAW. See that?
I see that.
He's a big Lortab man. And what does it say next?
He is a pushover.
A pushover. Right there. You see that?
I see it written.
Pushover. He said his patients request Lortab. I asked him if he lets his patients decide how to manage their pain. See that?
I see it written there.
What does he say next?
He said Okla has more addicts than he has ever seen.
Oklahoma has more addicts than he has ever seen. It's written there based on June 14, 2005, right?
It says that in his call notes.
Did we have an opioid crisis in the state of Oklahoma in 1997 when your company decided to take your drug that had been on the market for 6 years and expand it into non-cancer chronic pain?
Excuse me, Your Honor, I object. We've been over this subject before.
Objection sustained.
Did we have an opioid crisis? 2005?
Same thing, Your Honor. Objection.
Sustained.
Ma'am, when he says Oklahoma has more addicts than he has ever seen, did Angela Rogers report that to Jansen?
I don't know.
Should he have? Should Angela have?
Again, as I talked before, if he had specific examples that were specific to our products, then Angela would have been trained to report that.
Now, despite the doctor saying that Oklahoma has more addicts than he has ever seen, your sales rep responded by trying to get him to write Duragesic, right?
We don't know what the conversation, what it looked like and what took place here. These are just.
Excuse me, you do know. It says, I talked about benefits of consistent pain relief, sleep through the night, less abuse potential, and less frequent dosing. You see that?
I see that written here.
And then we see a word that comes after. What is that word?
Closed.
A word that you use in your marketing documents. Closed, right?
Yes.
There's a movie about it. Sales, always be closing, right?
I'm not aware of that movie.
Never heard that phrase, always be closing?
I know.
Close for what?
One new start.
One new start. Ma'am, if you'll just keep S473 handy, we've got more work to do there, but we're going to talk about something else for just a minute. We've established that you were in charge of piece at some point of the Nucynta marketing campaign, correct?
Nucynta ER.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I hand you a copy of States 1728. Your Honor, I move to admit this document into evidence at this time.
Checking. We have no objection, Your Honor.
States Exhibit 1728 will be admitted into the evidence.
May we publish this, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Now, let's just walk through this, ma'am. This is a document, at the top has a title line, Nucynta Partnering Initiative between Pricara Pain, AIGI, and CV Institutional. Do you see that?
I do.
Now, Pricara Pain was a Janssen or Johnson & Johnson company, right?
That was a Janssen, yes.
Okay, now do you know what AIGI and CV Institutional were?
Yeah, the AIGI would be anti-infectives, GI,
Okay.
gastrointestinal. CV is cardiovascular.
Okay. Now, it says overall partnering objective. Do you see that?
I do.
What does it say underneath that, the next line?
Drive overflow of Nucynta TRXs through select Oklahoma outpatient surgery centers.
Well, I need to correct you, ma'am. It doesn't say overflow, it says outflow,
I'm sorry, outflow.
right? Drive outflow. There's that word again, drive, right?
I see that.
Of prescriptions through select Oklahoma outpatient surgery centers, right?
I see that, yes.
Now we go down to specific team goal. You see where it says pain team?
I do.
What does it say?
Drive pain specialists and surgeons that utilize outpatient Nucynta to influence surgery center protocols to include Nucynta in standing orders.
So there it says drive again, right?
It says drive, yes.
And your target is pain specialists and surgeons, right?
It says pain specialists and surgeons here.
And you're focused on those that utilize outpatient Nucynta, right?
Yes, those who are utilizing Nucynta,
With
using
an idea to influence surgery center protocols to include Nucynta in standing orders, right?
That's what it says here, yes.
Doesn't say educate, it says influence, right?
It says that, yes.
Now let's go to AIGIT. Increase brand awareness and utilization of Nucynta. Says that so far, right?
It does.
Increase.
Increase brand awareness, that would, yes. How do you increase brand awareness?
With targeted customers, right?
Those are the individuals that are in the call plan that
Through
are,
both direct and indirect influence, right?
that is written here, yes.
Now you were involved in marketing Nucynta ER, right?
I was.
And you know that influence comes in many shapes and colors, doesn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, you can do it directly, or you can do it indirectly.
Potentially.
So example, if I want to influence you to do something with Nucynta, I can in one way directly say, prescribe more Nucynta. That would be an example of me attempting direct influence, right?
Well, again, how would you, to get you to write a prescription of Nucynta, I would first have to educate you. Through that education, that would be direct influence, yes.
Directly by talking about the specific brand name drug, right? That's one way to do it.
About the benefits and risks, yes.
An indirect way would be to use something like unbranded marketing and say opioids are safe and effective for all kinds of things. That could be an indirect way to influence prescribing, right?
No.
Unbranded marketing wasn't an indirect attempt to influence prescribing?
No. That's not how
what that document we looked at was about earlier?
No.
Not setting a hook
No.
to influence?
Indirect is not direct. That's not, with the unbranded educational programs that we put forth, the NEO pathways that we looked at, that was our sales representatives directly discussing that with the physician. That would be a direct interaction.
Okay, so you would say that unbranded marketing is a direct form of influence
I would say it's a direct form of education.
about all opioids.
Again, it's not specific to a product.
It's specific to a class, opioids.
to a disease state and to the issues in that particular community.
To treating an alleged disease state with opioids.
In this case, this education was around opioids.
Increase brand awareness and utilization with targeted customers through direct and indirect influence. Now let's see what it says, how that's done. Indirect influence is accomplished by understanding and then leveraging referral patterns and relationships between primary care doctors and those specialists that operate in these select surgery centers. You with me so far?
I am?
So you had an issue that you had to get referrals from surgery centers out to treating physicians, right?
Excuse me, Your Honor. I believe that's what that says. Is that a separate question or a
It's-
reference to the document?
Very clearly a separate question.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, can you ask that question again?
You had an issue with surgery centers that once a patient gets out of a surgery center, they go to a primary care physician, right?
Potentially.
And you needed to get those relationships between the surgery center specialist and the primary care physician so that prescriptions would continue or be used after a surgical event, right?
Well, the way I read this, they're like going to call on the surgery centers where specialists are treating these patients. So they're basically linking the surgery centers where the initial situation takes place that are then transitioned to the primary care.
Right there it says leveraging referral patterns, right?
It says that, yes?
And relationships, right?
It says that, yes?
Let's go to the next one, CVIT. Drive utilization of Nucynta. Now there's a word, drive, right?
It says that here, yes?
Your word.
Yes.
At these selected surgery centers by having standing orders changed to reflect Nucynta as preferred pain opioid, right?
It says that, yes?
Let's go to background. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes, you may.
Ma'am, I've got the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Let's look at some of these words, if you may. I'm gonna lean over you. You see where I have drive?
I don't mind him asking her what her interpretation of drive, influence, or any other word is, but I don't see the benefit of reading dictionary terms into the record.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yes.
The benefit is that we've had an issue for 2.5 days now where a word says one thing and the witness says it means something else. And I mean, I've got the dictionary, and I think it's important to read into the record what the dictionary attaches to these words.
It's hardly a course of proper cross-examination. He can ask her what she means by a given word, what she understands that to mean, but reading from the dictionary and saying, accept my definition, is not proper cross-examination object.
Your Honor, it's not my definition, it's Merriam-Webster's dictionary's
Even worse, then
definition.
it's hearsay.
A dictionary's hearsay?
Can be.
Whew.
Mr. Beckworth, how many words are you seeking to define from the dictionary?
Can I do 2 or 3?
I'll give you limited permission to do so over the defendant's objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, let's look at drive. Right here, would you read what it says for drive? And I've highlighted a few, but if you'll start with number 1.
To urge, push, or force onward, to carry through strongly, to set or keep in motion or operation, to
Okay.
direct the movement or course of.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. Did you get that, though?
Maybe Mr.
Okay.
Beckworth could read them from the podium so the court reporter can hear them.
If we could look at, we'll do 2 more.
I'm okay with this.
To honor His Honor's request that I limit this, we'll do 2 more. Here's influence. How does the dictionary define influence?
The act or power of producing an effect without apparent force or direct authority. the power or capacity of causing an effect in indirect or intangible ways.
Thank you, ma'am. The leverage requires two because it defines one word. Let's start with leverage, and what does it say?
The action or mechanical effect of a lever.
And what does lever, how is it defined?
A bar used for a bar used for prying or dislodging something, also a means for achieving one's purpose, a rigid piece turning about an axis and used for transmitting and changing force and motion.
A means for achieving one's purpose, right?
Excuse me, Your Honor, now he's only having her read a part of the definition.
It says also a means for achieving one's purpose. That's what you said there, right?
Yes, she's already said it, so he doesn't need to repeat it.
Sustained.
You read the definition, ma'am, didn't you?
I did.
Okay. Dry utilization of Nucynta. We see that, right?
It says that, yes?
Influence. We see that, right?
We've talked about that, yes?
Leverage. We see that too, don't we?
We do.
Let's go to background, Mr. Medina. Just right under here. First page, right below where you were. There you go. In order to increase prescriptions of Nucynta, both DDD and exponent, what do those mean?
DDD is hospital data.
Exponent?
I cannot remember. Potentially retail?
Okay. So here, it doesn't say that your goal is to educate. It says your goal or background is in order to increase prescriptions of Nucynta, right?
I see that, yes, as the goal.
3 separate Nucynta sales forces are seeking to partner together and leverage select Oklahoma outpatient surgery centers to help accomplish this goal. It's right there, isn't it?
I see that written, yes.
And it talks about how there are approximately 100 such ambulatory surgery centers in the Oklahoma area, right?
I see that, yes.
And I think you would agree with me, it's true that often, and it says this here, many times these have physicians as investors or owners, right?
I see that, yes.
So remember that, investors or owners. It says, as a result, these physicians are often more attentive to hearing about therapies, processes, or technologies that enhance throughout, improve outcomes, and increase patient satisfaction scores. Correct?
I see that.
Okay. And there at the bottom, it's comparing the profile of Nucynta and potency comparable to oxycodone 10 and 15, right?
Excuse
It
me,
talks about
you gonna
Nucynta.
read the whole thing or just part of it? I'm sorry.
You can see it right there. You know what I'm referring to. Correct?
It does say the profile of Nucynta with its unique mechanism and potency comparable to oxy is certainly a product that could play a role in these centers for patients experiencing moderate to severe pain.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, can we turn to the next page, please? Now, as we go down here on your agenda, we see the first bullet is identified surgery center, and we see a word. What is it?
Targets.
And then we see 7 different ones listed, right?
We do.
Okay. And we see some sales rep names to the right, don't we?
It appears, yes.
Now, we can go down to decision-making process. We see here formulary procedures, right?
Says that, yes.
Pain committee, P&T review, MedEx. So one of the things that happens in a hospital like that is you need to understand what's stocked in the hospital, right?
You want to know what's on formulary and the procedures of their formulary committees, yes?
Because the idea is when a patient comes in for a procedure, whatever is there is what will be available to be prescribed immediately, correct?
What is on the formulary is usually yes.
Okay. And then it says department considerations. We've got case management, discharge planning, quality, performance improvement, rehab, inpatient pharmacy, outpatient pharmacy, right?
Yes?
All considerations that you would be looking to see what's going on and how prescriptions might be used, right?
These are all part of these are the different departments.
Okay. Now, if we can go to the next page, please, Mike. There's this point there that says next steps. You see that?
I do?
Okay. It says identify roles and responsibilities. And then underneath it, it says influencing mapping. You see that?
I do?
Okay. Now, you saw in our opening statement in this case, I showed a map that I know you're familiar with of a bunch of different colors that said influence map. Do you recall that?
I do?
Okay. Now, let's go back here to goals. Key goals. Inpatient, gain stocking formulary status at each of the identified accounts within the next 90 days, right?
I see that, yes?
But what this was also about was making sure that once the patients were gone or out, that they were using Nucynta thereafter, right?
Well, it looks like in the outpatient, follow the patient.
And it shows at 60 days, the goal was to increase Nucynta business 10% with affiliated docs in these accounts, right?
It says that.
And at 90 days, increase Nucynta business 15% with affiliated docs, right?
It says that.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes, you may.
Let's go to the next page. So, right here we have an influence map, not the big one that we used in opening, which we'll talk about, but one specific to ambulatory surgery centers, partner initiative right here in Oklahoma, right?
It says it's an influence map, yes?
And if we look at the very bottom, left corner, what does it say?
Outflow TRX.
All right, outflow TRX, and we just looked at those goals for 60 and 90 days after, right?
We did?
Goals were to increase prescriptions, right?
It did say that, yes?
All right, now let's look at this map a little bit. Got a lot of things working. Remember I asked you about doctors who might be investors in an organization?
Yes?
We see med director investors right here, right?
I see that, yes?
Okay. Now, over here in the bottom left corner, we see pain doctor, right?
I see that, yes?
And in between the two, we see Pricara pain.
I see that, yes?
And it's got an arrow of influence going up to the medical director investor and an arrow of influence going down to the pain doctor, right?
It has an arrow. I would assume that the Pricara pain is responsible for calling on these two.
Okay. Now, one of the other folks that was in this was CV Institutional, right?
Correct?
Over here on the far right, we have Surgeon MD.
I see that, yes?
Now, CV Institutional has got an arrow going to the medical director investors on one side and out to the Surgeon MD on the other, right?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
It's got an arrow going of influence going out to the medical director investor and an arrow going to Surgeon MD, right?
It does, yes?
Okay. And underneath it, we see ASC RPH. Do you know what that means?
I don't know. Ambulatory surgery center, I would believe that would be the pharmacist.
Okay. And we've got a CV institutional map, arrow going right there, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then we've got a CV institutional area going over, start over. Sorry, Tommy. A CV institutional arrow going out to the ambulatory surgery center case manager box there as well, right?
I see that, yes.
And then underneath it, we've got surgery center, ambulatory surgery center, right?
I see that, yes.
We've got an arrow going from the surgeon to the surgery center, right?
I see that, yes.
We've got an arrow from the medical director investor going there, right?
I see that, yes.
Okay. And here at the bottom, we've got primary care MD nurse, office manager, right?
I see that, yes.
And we've got an arrow from Pricara Pain going down to the primary care MD nurse office manager, right?
I see that, yes.
And over here on the right, we've got a circle for Pricara AIGI, right?
I see that.
And we've got arrows everywhere there. We've got 3 arrows going to primary care MD nurse office manager, right?
I see that, yes.
We've got an arrow going to the pain doctor, right?
I see that, yes.
We've got another arrow coming out of TRICARE AIG to the pain doctor, right?
AIGI. Yes.
Okay. Now we've got a few things going on here. We've got these, I call them oval, and I see 3. TRICARE Pain, CV Institutional, TRICARE AIGI. And all 3 of those were on the document earlier at the top, right?
Those are the 3 sales forces, yes.
Okay. Then we've got more like boxes. They got rounded edge. We'll call them a box. And that's what everything else falls into, right? Either a rounded edge box or a perfect box, right?
Those are the customers.
The customers. All those arrows, you were having a trouble a minute ago looking at it because there's a lot of arrows, aren't there?
This is very confusing.
It's very confusing. There's a lot of influence, direction going on here, right?
I believe what this is what we had talked about before. I'm not sure we needed to use this crazy map.
Well, let me make it easy for you. You see here where it says outflow TRX?
Yes,
There's only one arrow going to it, right?
yes,
Surgery center, ambulatory surgery center, dead center of your influence map has one arrow going out to outflow total prescriptions, right?
yes.
And that's how it's done. That's how you influence, isn't it?
What I would say is this is outlining the many components to what happens before a script is made, is written. So many of these individuals have influence whether or not a script is made, is prescribed.
So let's stop there. You said something, and I'm going to paraphrase it. Your attorney will object, I just can't remember it. You said these are all the components that go into it, right?
Well, these are the different customers that are part of this ambulatory center.
But there's 3 things on here that are not customers.
Those are the 3 different representatives.
Okay. All of this effort, all of it, was specifically designed to influence prescribing, to get drugs out the door. True?
Again, I'll go back to my explanation very early on. All of this is to outline the different customers, and I know you're not going to like this, all the customers that need to be educated about the benefits and risks associated with, in this case, this was, I believe, tapentadol.
I'm gonna step back a little bit because it's too close for me to see. I'm gonna get back here so I can take it all in. Let me ask you a question. Where is the word educate? I've got a 100-inch TV and an 86-inch TV. Will you please show me in this court, where on that map the word influence appears anywhere? I'm gonna get all the way back here. I'm sorry, educate. Where's educate? Judge Burge reminded me, you had me going. Educate, educate, educate. Where is it?
Educate is not on this map.
Nowhere?
It is not on the map.
Thank you. All right, let's go to the next one. States Exhibit 1346. Your Honor, may I approach witness?
Yes, you may.
Take a look at that. Your Honor, States Exhibit 1346 is an email between Janssen employees dated December 10, 2010, and we've asked that it be admitted into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
States Exhibit 1346 will be admitted into the evidence.
Your Honor, may I publish this one?
Yes, you may.
Now, ma'am, we're going to look at this email and we can just kind of scroll down through it. Start at the top. This is Eric Anderson to Russell Marshall. 2 Janssen employees, right?
They appear to be 2 Janssen employees, yes.
It says paying DDD account exception for 2001, and remind us what DDD means.
DDD is hospital data.
And it has an attachment, right?
It appears to be, yes.
Okay, so here it says Russell. I have included the list of 2 H3 accounts within Oklahoma City that are heavily influenced by our team and are generating a significant amount of prescriptions every week. You see that?
I do.
Now, let's go back for a minute. This is Oklahoma City, right?
It says that here, yes.
And the word heavily, is it different than the other words?
It's underlined. It's underlined.
It's not just underlined.
It's underlined and bolded.
And after it, it says something else. What?
Influenced.
And it says these are generating a significant amount of prescriptions every week, right?
It says that, yes.
And it identifies 2 accounts associated with Baptist Hospital. Got that so far?
I do.
And most importantly, the primary pharmacies that are having prescriptions filled by patients at Jim Thorpe Rehab. See that?
I see that.
Okay. Now, one of the things we've established in this several days we've had together is that you didn't just have to influence or target the doctor. You also had to influence and target pharmacies, right?
We educated pharmacists as well, yes.
Just educate or influence?
Again, I go back to through education, if they saw the value in our product. Again, pharmacists aren't writing our product, but if they saw the benefits of our product, if you call that influence, then okay.
If a patient takes a prescription from a doctor to a pharmacy and the pharmacy doesn't have your drug, then they're going to get a generic or they're going to go somewhere else, right?
They'll go somewhere else, yeah.
And they may ultimately give up, not fill it.
Potentially.
And if that happens, you don't make any money.
If they don't fill the drug, no.
Your sales rep's compensation wasn't just based on the doctor prescribing, it was based on the pharmacy filling, right?
Ultimately, the patient has to adjudicate the drug, yes.
And you track prescription issuance from pharmacies. That's how you kept up with what was going on, right?
We track scripts that are filled, yes.
Okay. Now here it skips down and it discusses a doctor and it says this person is the medical direction and primary physician over the rehab facility. He is our largest supporter and target. You see that?
I do.
As well as a speaker in the area. You see that?
I see that, yes.
I have spoken with, we'll skip the name, and the accounts have ordered over 1,200 units in most recent data. They are the 2 largest H3 accounts in the state and our district. See that?
I see that.
Please tell the court, what is an H3 account?
That's a hospital account.
Okay. And there, if we go down a little bit further, it says, I know that you only are able to include 5 in the entire region, but these 2 are essentially linked. See that?
I see that, yes.
It goes on to say there is also a very high percentage of our surgeons doing procedures at these facilities that we are not getting captured in our traditional retail data. See that?
I do.
It refers to these surgeons as whose?
I'm sorry.
It says there's a very high percentage of
Our surgeons.
our surgeons. Now this is from Janssen sales reps, right?
I don't know if, I believe, probably that Eric is a sales rep.
Well, he's certainly a Janssen employee.
He is a Janssen employee.
Did Janssen employ surgeons in Oklahoma?
No.
Well, how could an Oklahoma surgeon be ours?
I think the sales rep in this sense is just talking about the surgeons that are on their call plan.
Okay. Now, if we go down a little further, there's another email, December 9, 2010. It sets up what this was about. says, team, sorry for getting this to you so late. We will be able to add 5 H3DDD accounts, outpatient pharmacies, to our compensation. You see that?
I do.
Okay. And it's saying, since we can only add 5 for the entire region, I need each of you to provide me with the necessary, found below, info for your top 2 accounts, and I will prioritize 5 and forward along to Shane. See all that?
I do.
Okay, let's go to the next page.
I may have misspoke. H3 is out, I believe it's outpatient pharmacies associated with a hospital.
Okay. Like I said, you gotta have the pharmacy to fill the script, right?
The pharmacy would, yes.
It's a 3-step process. Doctor's gotta write, pharmacy's gotta get it out the door, and the patient has to consume. True?
Ultimately, if the patient's going to get the pain relief, yes.
If the patient's gonna get the pain relief, but in your perspective, all 3 of those things have to happen before you're gonna get the money.
Well, again, you would want the doctor to write the appropriate prescription for the patient, what they deem appropriate. Then you want the patient to feel comfortable, then, or to get the script filled, and
Well,
then to take it yes.
Your opening statement that Jansen gave, there was this chain. You remember we had links and they were trying to show they were broken, right? You remember that? You were here.
I remember it brought, yeah.
By the way, you're here on behalf of the company, right?
I am,
Did you approve those graphics?
personally,
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
On behalf of the company,
Sustained.
Thank you.
may I ask it on her representative capacity?
No. It's
I'm
the
asking the
same
judge
objection.
later.
That gets into the motions in limine on litigation.
You saw that though, didn't you?
I did.
Okay. Now, you gotta have all 3 of those linked together before your company can make money off of a prescription. True?
The patient has to adjudicate the claim at the pharmacy, yes. For us
Going
to
backwards,
make
it
money.
has to be at the pharmacy,
Yes,
and it has to be written by a doctor.
yes,
You can't have one without the other.
correct.
You cannot make money as a pharmaceutical company unless all 3 of those things occur.
So in order for your drug to be, in order for a pharmaceutical company on that specific product, the doctor does need to write that product and it needs to be filled at the pharmacy. And the patient needs to pick that up, so it needs to be adjudicated, yes.
And you market it to all 3.
We educated, well, no, not patients directly.
You
We-
did not
No.
market directly to patients about opioids?
We did not,
Ever?
no.
Okay. Now let's go to the top of that second page. Many of you have requested us to look into adding additional subcats into compensation for 2011. See that? One of the requests we've received was in regards to specific H3 outpatient pharmacies that dispense Nucynta TRXs that are generated by your prescribers, but in some circumstances they are filled within these H3 accounts which are affiliated to a CVI account. You see that?
I do,
Okay. So when you had your sales reps comp plans, they got paid when a prescription was filled. That was part of their compensation plan, right?
if it was in a pharmacy that was being tracked,
And you've talked a lot about educating and medically appropriate and all that stuff.
yes,
If the prescription got filled, the comp got paid.
if it was in an appropriate specialty, yes.
Well, it's not what I asked you. If the prescription got filled, the comp got paid. True?
Like I said, you're talking compensation now
Yes,
for a representative,
yes,
the over-base compensation.
yes.
If that prescription was filled for a non-approved specialty or from a non-approved specialty, they would not get credit for it, no.
In all other circumstances?
If it was in an approved specialty and it got filled and adjudicated, yes.
So for example, if a sales rep targets a primary care physician that's on his call list, and that prescription finds it's all the way to the consumer, okay, you with me so far?
I am,
And it gets paid.
yes.
That comp goes back as part of the overall above base compensation for the sales rep, right?
It is tracked as a prescription that a doctor writes, yes.
Does not matter, nor do you determine whether that prescription was appropriate or not.
Again, the doctor has to determine whether or not that is, that the patient is appropriate. That's their decision.
And your company paid the comp no matter what that decision was?
If it was an approved specialty and on the call plan, yes.
So primary care physicians would be an approved specialty.
And again, remember, those individuals that were on our call plan were those prescribing long-acting opioids.
And if they were called on, no matter whether the prescription was good, bad, or otherwise, the comp got paid.
Again, that decision on the appropriate patient was left up to the physician.
You're not answering my question.
And yes, the comp would be paid.
Thank you. Your Honor, we're going to go back to States 3962, please. Can we publish this? Can you blow up the subject line, Mike? Ma'am, I'd like for you to read the subject line on States 3962.
Duragesic to launch a direct-to-patient program.
But you just said you never went direct to patients.
I said we never went direct-to-consumer. Direct-to-consumer is different than direct-to-patient. And if I
Okay.
misspoke and said direct-to-patient, I apologize. And I can describe to you or let you know what that means.
You went direct to patients.
Direct-to-patient is not, and I want to explain this.
Please do, because we've had influence and educate and teach, and now we've got patients, not patients, and consumers. Let's listen. What do you have to say?
So a direct-to-patient, in this particular case, this is a program that was launched direct-to-patient. That is a patient who has been prescribed, in this case, Duragesic, and this is education for that patient about Duragesic. Again, the patient has already been prescribed Duragesic. In a direct-to-consumer situation, that is where you leave out the middleman. It's like the direct-to-consumer advertising that you see on TV. That is, you bypass the physician and you go right to the patient to try to get the patient to ask that provider. In the case of direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical advertising, you're trying to have the patient ask the doctor for that prescription. That is not what we did. We did not do any direct-to-consumer advertising. This is not advertising. This is patient education for a patient who has already been prescribed Duragesic in this case.
So you went direct to patients.
That is a program that was done for patients who are prescribed Duragesic.
You went direct to patients.
Again, to educate them after being prescribed Duragesic.
Ma'am, it's a simple yes or no answer. Did you go direct to patients?
Excuse me, she's already explained that, Your Honor. It's been asked and answered.
She's not, Your Honor, if I may respond, she is not answering the question.
I believe she has both to him and to you.
What was your answer?
In this case, this would be called direct-to-patient because it was through an educational program to the patient after they were prescribed Duragesic.
Thank you. One second for you, Andrew. One 730. Approach.
Yes, you may.
Your Honor, this is an email from Bo Boson at quintiles.com to Eric Anderson at Jansen. We have moved to offer this in evidence at this time.
No objection, Your Honor.
State Exhibit 1730 will be included in the evidence.
May we publish this, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Ma'am, this is a email exchange here that we're going to go over. If you need a second to read it, we're going to focus on the bottom third of the page where it's the last email.
Okay, let me read through it, please.
You bet. Let me know when you get there, ma'am.
I'm almost done.
Here, I'll let you see.
Thank you.
Your Honor, just while she's doing that, just for the court's reference, under that exhibit sticker, the words are "following are the."
Thank you.
Mr. Ottaway informed me he didn't have it on his version. Okay, so if we turn to that email, what's going on is a conversation at a meeting about specific strategy for specific details for the sales territory, right?
This is a district strategy.
Okay. And Eric Anderson was in the Tulsa district, right?
That I don't know.
We'll read down to it. Here it says, District Q1 2012 strategy. We must begin to think of our territories in terms of performance rather than activity. Following are the strategic imperatives that we have laid out for the district going forward. Increase product knowledge, improve market knowledge, increase confidence, improve collaboration and communication. You see all those?
I do.
Take ownership and treat our territories as our personal business. See that?
I see that, yes.
And he says the last bullet point is the most important to our immediate success in our territories and key in thinking of terms of performance rather than activity. You got me so far?
I do.
We discussed the various businesses that others within our district have owned before and understand that in those businesses, they looked at every day as an opportunity to move units, not to make sales calls. You see that?
I see that, yes.
And that was the whole point of sending sales reps into Oklahoma. It was to move units of opioids, right?
It is to differentiate their products.
To move units.
And again, to differentiate so that if the doctor deems it appropriate, they'll prescribe our drugs instead of the competition.
Your company with specific branded opioids built billion-dollar franchises with Duragesic and Nucynta, right?
We were in the pain franchise, yes.
You built billion-dollar franchises with each of them.
Not with each of them, with,
You sold Nucynta for over $1 billion.
we didn't make that when we were selling it.
You made a lot. You mean you didn't make it a year? Or you didn't make that all together?
I don't know as we made that all together, so.
What about Ultran?
Again, I don't know how much we made on Ultra. I
You
don't,
made a lot of money with those products, didn't you?
I don't know.
You also made money off of generics.
Again, that,
Right,
Is-
she said she doesn't know. I don't know how many times she has to say.
Objection sustained.
You were there to move units.
We were there to differentiate our products.
And like any kind of sales, a unit could be a tennis shoe, a soft drink, or here, an opioid.
Here they're talking about units as a descriptor for someone who used to own their own business.
Talking among the sales reps of looking at how they've sold things in other industries and how to use that in selling opioids, right?
They are just describing looking at their territories as a business.
To move units.
It says that those who had their businesses, they looked at every day as an opportunity to move units.
He goes on to say, our industry has for too long predominantly started each day thinking about how many calls we have to make to reach CPA. And what does that mean?
Call plan attainment,
What is call plan attainment?
that is exactly what he says before that. It's making the number of calls on their call plan targets.
So y'all set for them a specific number of calls they were required to do daily.
It is a goal.
Rather than how many prescriptions we need our doctors to start for appropriate patients to achieve our data, right?
Our quota, yes.
That is going to change for the Tulsa Retail District in 2012. See it?
I see that, yes.
While we still have a call plan and need to follow a TOP. Now let's stop there. What is TOP?
I don't know.
Okay. We will change our thought process, and when we pull out of our driveways each morning, we will no longer think, I need to make 8 physician calls and 3 pharmacy calls. We will start to think, I need to sell X number of Nucynta ER, Xarelto, and Acifex today in order to hit quota, right?
It says that, yes.
Our days and sales results will truly become successful when we hit those daily totals, and don't let each day end until we have achieved our daily totals. See it?
It says that there, yes.
And below there, he sets a goal for Nucynta of 3 per day.
I see that, yes.
Comp tied to units moved.
Comp's tied to prescriptions written.
If a sales rep went out for a year and did the exact number of calls that you set as the target quota, but no prescriptions were actually filled and paid for, his compensation would be affected, right?
Probably, yes.
Probably fire him or her, right?
Potentially.
Because they were there to move product.
Again, they were there to educate and ultimately ensure that the physician understood the benefits and risks of our drugs.
Well, if they were there to educate and make sure that the physician understood the benefits of your drug, then why would you fire him? Because if they were there for a year and every day they went and did the precise number of calls you set for them and they did precisely what you told them to do, but no product got moved, then they would have been doing just what you said, educating, right?
But if there were others in the area that were educating and doctors saw the benefits of the drug, and again, we thought our drugs and we felt our drugs were very good. So all the insight and all the information we had is our drugs should be used by prescribers.
Well, but if you were just paying these folks to educate, then why didn't you just pay them to educate?
Well, we did pay them a base salary that was, the majority of their salary is the base salary.
You paid them to move product. That's what they got paid to do, right?
Well, we paid them to educate and ultimately, again, through that education, help the doctor or hope that the doctor writes our drug, yes.
Did you have them read any of Dr. Courtwright's books before they came to sales rep calls in Oklahoma?
I'm going to object to that, Your Honor, as being too late in the afternoon to have to hear such a question.
I don't think that's recognized, but
I
the
believe
judge
it's a
can grant
relevant
it.
question. I'm going to overrule the question.
Thank
The objection.
That is one I've never heard before, and you're a little older than me, but I'm going to put that in my journal.
I learned that in law school, Judge, but I got out a long time ago.
Professor Winry thanks you.
Did you have them read Dr. Courtwright's books before they came here?
I am not sure if they read his book or not.
Now, did you have them do any specific training in addiction diagnosis, treatment, or recognition?
I don't believe we did because our reps were not intended to diagnose. Or,
Recognize?
again, we did not have an addiction medication, a product for addiction.
That's a really interesting answer. Our reps weren't intended to diagnose addiction. Is that what you said?
No, you said addiction,
Yes.
diagnosis,
Yes.
and said some other things. And I said that our reps aren't intended to diagnose, that would be the physician who diagnoses.
Did you educate your sales reps and train them specifically on addiction? I think yesterday you said no. Has that changed?
I don't believe so, no, we did not.
They're pain experts.
We, again, tried to train them as much as we could around the pain disease state.
Were they
To-
opioid experts?
Again, we trained them on the specific medications that they sold and the competition.
Were they addiction experts?
I don't believe so, no.
Were they pseudo-addiction experts?
I don't believe so, no.
Were they abuse experts?
I would say that I don't believe so, no.
Now, you know, I've said more than once that you sent these folks here, and you've heard counsel object to that and said many of these were Oklahomans, right? You've heard that dialogue?
That the sales representatives
Yes,
here
ma'am.
are Oklahomans, yes?
And
Let's
I
talk
object
about
If we've said it many times, we shouldn't have to say it again at 4:45 on a Friday.
Objection sustained.
Let's talk about this for a minute. Who trained these Oklahomans?
I don't know if there was a trainer in Oklahoma or if and I'm saying there was a field learning advisor that was assigned to each trainer.
Let me ask that a little more specifically. Jansen trained.
Yes.
Who paid them? Jansen?
Who paid
Sales reps?
the sales reps that were part of our company?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Who gave them the materials to use?
Jansen did.
Who gave them the leave behinds?
Jansen did.
Who gave them the promotional items like we looked at yesterday?
As we know, they would have all gone through our copy review process, and Jansen would have provided those.
Who gave them the studies to use?
That would be Jansen.
Who provided the DON data for them to use?
That would have been through our regulatory review process, and we would have presented it to them.
Who set their targets?
That would be our call plan group, our business analytics group.
Jansen, Johnson & Johnson?
Jansen would, yes.
Who determined how their comp was figured?
That would be also the business analytics group and Jansen.
Who set the precise number of calls they had to do each day?
Again, that would be the business analytics group.
Who grabbed IMS targeting data from pharmacies and prescribers?
You mean the IMS data,
Yes, ma'am.
who processed that?
Who bought it?
Jansen would have bought that.
Who analyzed it and then determined which doctors to go target and call?
That would have been through IMS, working with IMS and Jansen's business analytics team.
All Jansen,
For the products that we market and the products that we sell, yes.
at all times.
Jansen would have, yes.
So y'all sent that information and those instructions here to Oklahoma, right?
What instructions, what?
All the things we just went over. Quotas, comp plans, strategies, training, leave behinds, all of those. Y'all did
Jansen would have developed that, yes.
and sent it here
We would have trained the representatives here, yes.
to be deployed here.
Excuse me, Your Honor. Again, it's repetitive and I object to it.
Objection will be sustained.
Let's go to the next one. States 1341, Mr. Otter. 1348, I'm sorry. May I approach?
Yes, you may.
We don't have an objection to this document, Your Honor.
States Exhibit 1348 will be admitted into the evidence.
Can we publish this one, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Beth Hightower, we saw her earlier. She's a sales rep, right?
I believe she's a sales rep, yes.
In fact, if we look here, there's an email dated September 18, 2010. And there it says Beth Hightower, CMR sales exec, sales rep, President Circle, Cricera, right?
I see that, yes.
Okay. And Craig Abraham, that's a Janssen employee, right?
Yes.
Well, let's go down to an email on September 17th. He may object, but that's my mom's birthday, by the way. Friday, September 17th, 2010, and it says to Hightower, Beth, OMP. You see that?
I see that, yes.
And Ortho McNeil is part of the Johnson & Johnson family of companies, right?
Yes.
Okay. Subject line, NC speaker programs. That would be Nucynta, right?
I would guess, yes.
And you use speaker programs with the launch of Nucynta?
We did.
Okay. I just checked my speaker budget. As of now, I'm out of money. I will check with Alicia and Eric Anderson next week in Philadelphia to see if they have any funds left. And I will get back to you. See that?
I do.
Now let's see what precipitated that. If you go down below, September 16, 2010, from Beth Hightower to Craig Abraham. Let's just read along here. Craig, Ronald Myers, MD, is a huge Nucynta target for me. You see that?
I do.
And huge is all caps, right?
It is.
He is an FP doc in Roland that does pain management. Right there, huh? See that?
It says that, yes.
He has 2 other docs and a PA that practice pain management in his clinic. These practitioners are not targets for me, but it would be insane for me not to call on them while I am at the clinic. You with me so far?
I am.
The word is insane, right?
It says that, yes.
Dr. Myers sees new patients and the other practitioners manage their care from what I can tell. Dr. Myers used quite a bit of...
I'm sorry, could
Yes,
we approach just a second? I don't want to cut the flow
Sure you can.
here.
You gonna do it or see? approach with states 2357.
Ooh, these are warm.
I think they're fresh. You have a copy, that's what we're going to use.
Yes. Yep.
Ma'am, I've just handed you Duragesic 2001 business plan dated August 2000. You see that?
I do.
Your Honor, we'd offer this in evidence at this time.
No objection, Your Honor.
State's Exhibit 2357 is admitted into the evidence. You're given permission to publish.
Okay. Mike, we turn to 2357, page 0017. We'll look here on lessons learned. You see this?
I do.
Just want to go back here. DTC, direct to consumer, will you see that?
I see that.
Will work to drive consumers. Remember we were talking about that earlier?
Yes.
Lack of understanding. See that?
I do.
And high degree of dissatisfaction with current therapy.
I see that.
Just a moment ago, you said you did direct to patient, but not direct to consumer, right?
That is correct.
What does that say?
That says direct-to-consumer will work to drive consumers.
Okay. Lessons learned. Let's go up ahead of that. Duragesic, promotionally responsive. See that?
I see that, yes.
Resourcing against highest prescribers pays off. Right?
I see that, yes.
Let's go to page 18, Mike. Talked about SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. See that?
I do.
Over in the threat box. One of your threats was state medical boards, right?
It says that, yes.
We got one of those here in Oklahoma, don't we?
I would assume so, yes.
Let's go to page 24, Mike. Position Duragesic as first opioid choice for chronic around the clock pain. Now down on the left you see something called tactics.
I'm sorry, which page are we on?
24.
I see that, yes.
Tactics. Targeting around the clock opioid use. See that?
I do.
We see coupon program,
I see that, yes.
but then there's something else.
DTC advertising, but I
DTC, what does that mean?
direct-to-consumer.
Okay.
But I can tell you this is a business plan, and that was not done.
Was never done.
It was not done, the DTC.
Never.
Direct-to-consumer, no.
Ever?
In fact, in Dr. Portnoy's testimony, he said that we actually consulted with him on that. He gave us the advice not to do it, and we did not do it.
Is it your testimony that your company never did direct-to-consumer advertising?
We did not do direct-to-consumer advertising.
Okay. Write that one in. Let's go to the last page. 0052.
00 what?
Last page, ma'am. 0052. Foundation for success is in place. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Duragesic must resource our resources.
I see that, yes.
DTC offers significant upside potential.
I see that, yes.
Marketing, sales, and clinical are aligned around priorities and objectives.
I see that.
Your Honor, I'm done. If you're done, keep going, whatever you'd like us to do.
I think it's a great place to stop.
Thank you very much.
We will adjourn today and begin again next Monday, June 3rd at 9 a.m.
We'll have that brief hearing first, is that the plan?
Yes, we'll start with the hearing first.
Thank you. Thank you, y'all have a nice weekend.